Hi, and welcome back to David Pattinson's Accused Friends. I wanted to talk about these stabbings in Reading, which I was made aware of late last night, and I've just woken up here on Sunday morning and wanted to talk about it for a few minutes. I don't have much more information about it that's in the news, but I note that the media are calling it a random attack, and people are looking to pretty quickly make clear that this was absolutely nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter protest, which was taking place in the same location, on the same afternoon and evening. And I know a lot about Reading. I spent a lot of time there. It's a great place, great people. It's a pretty safe place. I mean, mass murder is not something that's happening in Reading on a regular basis. And I don't know if there's any connection to, the Black Lives Matter protest, but I think it's a totally relevant question to be asked. You would have seen with the George Floyd death in the United States, those videos went viral on the internet right away, and it ignited the Black Lives Matter protests. And so I was wondering whether, this Reading stabbing event, assuming that all the people stabbed were white people, that this will ignite a White Lives Matter movement around the world. I mean, there seem to be a lot of people online that don't want the video shared, and anyone who's got video, they say don't share it. But why don't we share it? Because with the Black Lives Matter video, the George Floyd video, that was deemed as a sort of a teachable moment. That was deemed as something that, was helping right the wrongs of the past generation. It was pulling away the veil of, racist police in the United States. Well, what about, white people in Reading that are just sitting there in the park having a picnic getting stabbed to death? Don't you think that would ignite a similar reaction from white people, assuming the perpetrator's a black person? I've heard that it's a Libyan person. I don't know much about Libya. I don't know if everyone's black in Libya. But I want to know from the person who committed this, what was their motivation? The Home Secretary and the media, like I said, are pretty quick to call it a random attack. But what does that mean? The person was just walking around the park trying to find an ice cream, all of a sudden decided to stab a bunch of people? Or have they been following the Black Lives Matter protest? Are they aggrieved at racial injustice in the United States and want to take it out on the people of Reading? So I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked here. If there is a White Lives Matter movement and mass worldwide protests, will the police be kneeling in front of the White Lives Matter people? Will the British Prime Minister come out and say, of course, White Lives Matter? I wonder if that's going to be permitted to occur. Also, why is the media reaction so different? If this was a white person going around stabbing a bunch of people at a Black Lives Matter protest, would that attack be called random, or would that attack be called systemic racism? Also, why are we still obsessed with calling Black Lives Matter protests peaceful? I note in the United States, there was a lot of riots where there was mass assaults committed against white people. There was vandalism. There was people being beaten to death on the streets. And, I wonder if that's going to occur here. I had someone message me who said, David, I want to go to a Black Lives Matter protest. Do you think I am safe at that event? Or do you think I'm likely to be murdered? And, I think this is something that the police and the government should come out and clarify. If you want to attend a peaceful protest, which is advertised as peaceful, are you liable to die or not? And a lot of questions still remaining. That's why I'm using this video to really ask questions, because the information is so limited. We need to get the video out there. We need to find out from the perpetrator what motivated him, and just don't take random as a justifiable incentive. I also think we need to, look very closely at these Black Lives Matter protests and wonder if they are going to lead to more violence and death on our streets here in Great Britain. The George Floyd death was nothing to do with Great Britain, but it's implied that it is. Also, what's the connection with the government constantly pandering to all these people that are tearing down tattoos? Is this leading to more violence from the Black Lives Matter people? Is crime now a black entitlement? Are black people who have been the victims of racism permitted to commit crime, whereas white people are not. And if we have White Lives Matter protests, will white people be able to commit crime against black people and get away with it? Or will they still be held fully accountable under the law? Will they get away with using the random defense? So a lot of points here, a lot of things to talk about. Final point I want to ask is what's any of this got to do with the lockdown? I was totally against the lockdown before it was called lockdown for the reason of civil liberties. And I've talked about this a lot. Civil liberties being violated is totally unacceptable. But does anyone out there think that these protests and potential violence are connected to the lockdown? Does anyone think these protests and the tearing down of our statues, stabbings in Reading, potentially a shooting in Manchester, which I heard about, does anyone think these would be occurring had the lockdown not been enforced? And, I think it's something to ask about. People who have survived the coronavirus are now getting stabbed to death. I don't think that's a very good reflection on the lockdown. And, I think potentially even taking out the civil liberties argument, it was probably not the best idea from the point of view of the economy, from the debt, and from the murder that's now occurring. So I hope you like this video, and we'll talk to you soon.